So my name is Barbara Hewitt. I am the Executive Director of the Career Services Office here at Penn. I have been here for quite a while, about 23 years. I started when I came to Penn working with the College of Arts and Sciences students. And then I had quite a few years leading the Wharton undergraduate team. And I've been the Executive Director for the last 3 years. And it is such a privilege to get to work with your children. They are so excited about their careers and creative and interesting. They really care about how they're going to go out and make an impact in the world. So I know all of us feel extremely lucky to get to work with your children every day. So in addition to myself, on the back end, we have some additional folks on the Career Services team who are here to answer questions in the chat, and they will certainly be answering questions a little bit later when we get towards the end of the program. Sharon Fleshman is our Senior Associate Director working with nursing students. Jamie Grant works with our engineering students, Claire Klieger with arts and sciences, and David Ross works with our Wharton students. We are a centralized office, as you will see. We serve all of the undergraduate students, but working with students from specific schools really allows us to get to know students a little bit better, to build those relationships, and also to get to know the curriculums of the schools a little bit better. But the services are pretty much the same for all undergraduate students. So today we're going to do a few things. We are going to talk a little bit about the career and graduate school advising resources that are available to your children. We're going to talk about some employer connections that we can help them with, a little bit about what employers tell us they're looking for. And also we're going to provide some preliminary data on the first destination survey for the class that just graduated. And this is hot off the press. No one's seen it, so we're excited to share it with you today. And because we are virtual, I have thrown in some pictures of campus just so it sort of feels like you are here. It's actually a little bit rainy here today, so much nicer in this picture than it actually is going to be this afternoon. So as you can see, our mission is written here, but we're the centralized career center. We help Penn students, alumni, and postdoctoral trainees define and achieve their career goals through advising, programs, partnerships, and other resources. And we strengthen ties of alumni, employers, and postgraduate institutions to the University of Pennsylvania and its students. So it's a pretty broad mandate. I think you can think of us as the office of anything that's career related. Your students can come here and hopefully get some help. There are many other offices on campus who also can provide really good career advice to students as well, whether that be the academic departments, some of the specific niche like Platt Performing Arts, if you're interested in performing arts, or Wharton Customer Analytics, if you're interested in analytics. But students should take advantage of our office, plus all of the other really incredible resources that are available to them on campus. As I mentioned, we serve all undergraduate students, and I should mention alumni. Once you graduate from Penn, you are an alum for life, and we serve students or alumni in perpetuity. So if your students are looking for a second or third job, or if down the road they decide they want to perhaps apply to graduate school, they can certainly come back, and we are absolutely happy to assist them. We also serve most of the graduate students at Penn, although not all of them. Some of the professional schools like the MBAs and the law school, they do have their own offices. And we serve current postdoctoral trainees. So very broad mix of individuals we serve, from freshmen through postdocs and on to alumni. I thought I'd start by talking a little bit about the kind of career services that we have been providing through COVID. Obviously, your students all have experienced a really rough last 18 months between probably having to study remotely last year. We are super thrilled to be back on campus this year, but we are taking some of the things that we learned from working remotely last year and utilizing it this year as well, and trying to have a hybrid approach that's going to combine the best of both worlds. So last year when we went remote, and most employers were remote, we really tried to develop some new resources that would be helpful to students in that kind of an environment. So for example, we developed a guide to internship searching during COVID and a guide to remote work. We found many students, particularly during summer 2020, really wanted to find those opportunities where they could live at home and work remotely. But we saw quite a bit of that last year as well. I'm hoping summer 2022 allows people to get back into offices and really do full-fledged internships. We had a lot of virtual appointments last year, and we did a lot of virtual workshops, over 250. We also implemented new ways for students to connect with employers. Traditionally, we have had live career fairs on campus. We have had on-campus interviews in our interviewing suite. Of course, we had lots of employers doing information sessions. That was all virtual last year, and we got a lot of systems in place that worked pretty well. Because of the ongoing concern about COVID, even though the staff and students are back on campus, we did decide to leave the employer programs virtual for this fall, at least. We're not quite sure what we're going to do in the spring. But there has obviously been some difficulties with having a lot of people from off campus on campus and not knowing vaccination statuses. So it sort of made sense to leave the employer piece virtual. And again, it's been working fine. Last summer, we also ran a new program that we did in conjunction with Student Registration and Financial Services to really expand our summer internship funding. Traditionally, that's been a pretty small program due to limited resources, where we could fund students doing non-paid or unpaid internships so that they could really get launched in their careers. Student Registration and Financial Services has a program for highly aided students who come from family incomes below 65. In our program, we were able to get a significant set of new resources to fund students who are doing internships from family incomes between 65 and 140,000. So we will be holding that program again this summer. We will probably be launching it in January, but if you fall into that category and your student is doing an unpaid or a non-paid internship, they're absolutely welcome to apply for that. We'll have information up again, probably in January to let them know how to apply for those funds. It is competitive. There is an application process and a screening process, but we are so thankful to have more resources than we've had in the past to support our moderate income students. So this year, as I said, we're doing hybrid. We are seeing students in person. We're seeing them virtually if they want to. Our employer programs are all virtual, and workshops and programs, we're doing some virtual and some in person. So kind of a mix of everything.
Oh, Barb, you're muted.
I don't know what happened there. Thank you, Jamie. All right, one second. So I'll talk a little bit more about the career advising that we are doing. Students really can come to us with any career kind of question they would have. A lot of that are students who just really aren't sure what they want to do, and that's fine. Lots of students come to Penn and really aren't sure what careers they want to follow, or they may come in very clear on what they want to do and then have a really wonderful course, or maybe a course that steers them in a different direction and change their mind. That is also fine. I want to really point out that students do not need to know exactly what they want to do to come talk to us. We're happy to have those exploratory discussions. We can do mock interviews with them if they have an interview coming up. We often talk to students about how to network with alums and how to find alums, but also how to do that in a way that is very professional. We do salary negotiations with students. We do lots of document reviews. We have a whole team that does career and professional school advising. So if your son or daughter is thinking about applying to medical school or law school, we help with those kind of conversations as well. Students can make an appointment, typically they're 30 minutes on our Handshake platform. They just need to log in with their Penn key and Penn key password. We also have virtual same-day drop-ins, which are shorter 15-minute sessions that they can schedule on Handshake the same day that they're going to have it. And those are for more quick questions. If a student has a really time-sensitive question about an interview that's coming up, or how to respond to a job offer, those kind of things, the quick questions are really helpful for that. In addition to the professional career advisors on our staff, we do have a great program with peer career advisors. These are 11 students who have spent a pretty significant amount of time getting training. They came back early to help their peers on things like resume and cover letter reviews. They'll sit down and review it and see how they could strengthen it. They talked with students quite a lot about networking. As you might imagine, a lot of students are nervous about that, and talking to a peer about it can make them much more comfortable. They can also come in if they're just not quite sure what resources that our office has that would be most helpful, or how to use those resources, maybe how to make the most of our Handshake platform. All of those sorts of things are fair game. The peer career advisors are around every day in the afternoon, and they are done virtually or in person. So a student can log on to Handshake in the morning and they can schedule one of those 15-minute appointments. They can also drop in if they want to, and if one of the PCAs is available, they can just see them when they come in, but it's probably better to schedule it just so you can make sure that they get the actual time that they wanted. Just a little bit more about our graduate and professional school advising team. They do a lot of work with pre-law and pre-health, because we have lots of students that go into legal and health fields. They also will talk to students, though, in other kinds of fields. So if you're interested in getting an MBA, or you're interested in a PhD in psychology, or a master's in engineering, really any postgraduate degree, they are happy to assist with. One of the things that they spend a lot of time doing is really coordinating the Health Professions Advisory Board. And Penn will write a letter of support for students who are applying to medical school. They do an interview with the students, they gather a lot of information, and they write a really tailored letter to support that student's application to med school. And we have very good results, as you'll see here. For the students who are entering med school in the fall of 2020, 80% of Penn students and alumni were accepted, where the national average is 44%. And they're going to schools like, obviously, Perelman here at Penn is a popular med school for students, but also Sidney Kimmel and Jefferson, Harvard, and the University of Miami were some of the top med schools. Law school also has a very good track record. We had 83% of Penn students and alumni who were applying to law school in fall 2020 were accepted. That's obviously a little bit higher than the national average. And they're going to schools like Harvard, NYU, and Penn as the top schools. Similar to the peer career advisors, there's also a peer health career coach who can help students who are interested in medical school. And again, this person is not providing really specific advice on like what courses you need or that kind of information, but rather to just help them think through the resources our office has and how they might want to make the most use of their own unique path, whether they might want to do research or do some volunteering in the community in a medically related field. So just to have those initial conversations, and again, to really support students in a very comfortable way. So we do a lot of workshops every year. I did a short screenshot of the programs that we had yesterday on our website, and you can see there was just a range. We have lots of employers who are offering programs, but we also offer workshops that our office staff. We often bring alumni back to talk about the kinds of things that they're doing and provide advice for students. Last night, we actually had Laura Albert, who is a Penn alum. She is the CEO of Williams-Sonoma, and she came back to talk to our students virtually about her career and how students might get into the retail field, and about Williams-Sonoma's internship program. But we also had programs yesterday by Spotify. We had a program that we co-sponsored with the alumni office about the future of the office that one of the about a book one of the Wharton professors wrote. SL Green is a real estate company. We had something from TFA, Teach for America. So on any given day, there's quite a number of programs that are going on, and students can look in Handshake, or they can look on our website to see what programs are coming up and how to register for them and log in. These are lots of virtual programs this summer. Of course, all of our employer information sessions are virtual, but we are doing some in person as well. I know earlier this week, the team did a program that was sort of a hybrid. You could attend virtually, or you could show up in person on data analytics. So experimenting with those sorts of ways of delivering programs as well. Lots of our workshops, particularly over the last year, have been very easy to record because we've been doing them online. We will then post them on our YouTube channel. So if a student isn't able to attend, they can just log in later and view it, which has been really one of the nicer things about the pandemic. There's lots we don't like, but that's actually been a really nice thing. A sample of some of the workshops that our office has run this year. We did an MMI workshop, actually a few of those for pre-med students. It's a certain kind of interviewing that medical schools do. Workshops on how to prepare for our virtual career fairs, law school application seminar, interviewing skills. As I mentioned, a job and intern search on data analytics. So again, a huge range of opportunities, and students can just check the website or Handshake to see those programs. We know that lots of students really are still deciding what they want to do after they graduate. Lots of us who are actually adults are still trying to figure that out. That is totally good. We are an office that really encourages students to explore and be really proactive in seeing what kind of options are out there. We really tend not to think that there's only one option for everybody as well. There's all kinds of careers that would be good for most people. So if your student is in that boat where they're really just not sure, one of the things they might want to do is go on our website. There's a lot of exploration resources there. We have a subscription to the Vault guides. There's hundreds of guides that are linked on our website on all kinds of industries. So for example, if you're interested in consulting, there's a consulting guide that will just tell you about what consulting's like. There are consulting guides that will help you how to do a case interview, which is the kind of interviewing consulting firms do. There are consulting industry guides that will tell you about the different employers that are in consulting. So all kinds of really great resources. We also have a very active, as I mentioned, YouTube channel, which students can access just off our website. Lots of pre-recorded programs there, and just lots of information from alumni, just information that can be really helpful. We also really encourage students to take advantage of the many connections that they would have with alumni here. They can go into the MyPenn alumni directory, search for alums in a particular industry, or who maybe share their major, or who perhaps are working for an employer that they're interested in. They can then reach out and see if they could set up an informational interview. And many of our alums are very loyal and actually really happy to go ahead and have those conversations with students. If a student wants something a little bit more formal to sort of assess how their interests and their skills align with the world of work, we would really recommend Career Explorer. Again, if they just keyword search on our website, they will find it. But we pay for all students to have access to Career Explorer. And it's a platform that you go in and you answer lots of questions. And it uses artificial intelligence and data analytics to suggest careers that might be a good match for you. And then it provides information on those careers. It's very interactive, so we think that's probably the best tool to start with. But we also offer the strong interest inventory, the Myers-Briggs type indicator, and Clifton strengths. If students are interested in those, they could reach out to an advisor here and we could help them get started with those assessments. The website is a place that has a ton of information on it. There's a couple of things I just wanted to point out, but students could spend hours poking around here because there's just tons of information. One thing that we do is we feed a lot of the information from our Handshake board, which has all of our events and our job listings, career fairs. We feed a lot of that to our website, and we tag it for specific communities and parts of our website. So if you're interested in entertainment, for example, if you go into that part of our website, and I'll show you where they are in a minute, you can find things related to entertainment, whether that be jobs or events. Those are then fed into our weekly newsletter, and students can sign up for whatever kind of information they would like to get in their newsletter. All students get sort of a generic one to begin with that's set to their school and their class year that would give the relevant information. But if they go in and they simply click at the top and log in, they can sign up for preferences and say what industries they're interested in, whether they would like to get blog articles from them, whether they would like to look at jobs or internships, what kind of events they would like to get. And they get a completely tailored newsletter to their particular interests once they do that. So I would definitely encourage your students just to go to our website, log in at the top, and set those preferences. Lots of other things on our website. They can get a link to get into Handshake and schedule an appointment, career fair links, there's a blog, lots and lots of great information. I did mention that we have a lot of website, industry, and affinity communities. And to get to those, you just go here to the communities tab at the top, and you will have pull down menus. We have 25 different industry communities, everything from sports and hospitality to life and physical sciences. You probably can't read it, but if you go online, you'll be able to see it. Students can select into any of the communities they would like to receive information in their newsletter about them. We also have 11 identity and affinity communities. So for example, there's things for veterans or international students, students with disabilities, first-gen students, students of color. Again, often we hear from employers who have programs specifically targeted to different populations. Maybe it's they want to get more women in technology. So if those kind of programs come into Handshake, we will tag them for the women's community and the technology community, and they will be more likely to show up in those students' newsletter. So again, very nicely organized into communities. There's also sections on how to do different things, like how to write a resume, how to interview, how to network, all kinds of different things. There is a section there on the website as well, specifically for parents that you're welcome to take a look at. If you're curious, you can just go under the "Who are you" at the top. So I've mentioned Handshake a couple of times. It is a really important platform for students to get familiar with. They all have a Handshake account as soon as they are enrolled and step foot on Penn's campus. They just need to go in and claim it. They can do that with their Penn key and their Penn key password. And through Handshake, they can easily schedule appointments with advisors. They can see which career fairs we're having and sign up to participate in them. They can search for and apply for jobs and internships. We had last year like 100,000 jobs and internships posted on Handshake for Penn students. So there's a lot in there. They can search it by, again, industry, geographic location, whether employers will sponsor international students for a visa, all kinds of different ways to search it. We also run our on-campus interviewing program through Handshake. They can see all of those events that I was talking about earlier and RSVP for them if they're interested. And they can also network with other Penn students. They can go in and say, I'm looking for students who may have worked at Accenture, for example, and it will, as long as students have filled out their profile in there, it will suggest other, sorry about that, it will suggest other Penn students that they might be able to reach out to talk about with them. So it's a really amazing tool for them, and they should definitely take a look at it. Other resources we have, I'll just mention quickly. Career Shift is an amazing tool where students can use it. It draws from publicly available information. It is free to your student, but they can do things like develop a list of pharmaceutical companies in New Jersey or entertainment firms in New York City. They can then find specific contacts, say in the marketing department or the finance department at those companies. They can search to see if Penn alums are at those companies. They can also see lots of jobs that feed through for the companies that are listed there. So again, they can just go on our website, search Career Shift, and play around with it. It's a really amazing resource. We all know how much interviewing has been virtual lately. Many companies are using asynchronous video where you will get questions and record answers, and then the company will watch them at their leisure. Big Interview is a platform that allows students to practice that. You can go in and do practice interviews for certain industries. You can create your own interviews. You can share them with us or with you or other people if they want some feedback afterwards. So that's a really great resource as well, especially now that so many interviews are virtual. Going Global is a wonderful resource for students who are US students who would like to work internationally. So if you wanted to go to Spain, you could see how they do resumes in Spain. What are some job boards in Spain? What are the visa restrictions? So it's helpful for domestic students wanting to go abroad. Also really helpful for international students who want to work in the United States because they have lists in there of which American companies have applied for H-1B visas for international students. So it's helpful for both populations to look internationally. And then we have lots of students who are interested in consulting, and consulting has a very specific kind of interviewing where you would work through business cases with the interviewer. Management consulting is a great tool to help students practice those case consulting interviews, and it has tons and tons of interview questions. It has frameworks. It will help you with mental math, all of those things that might make you much more successful in a consulting interview. I wanted to also talk a little bit about our social media. CS Radio is a podcast that a couple of our staff members do. They put it out every Monday. And if you're curious to see what's going on in career services, or if you're just curious to learn about a particular job searching topic, often they will focus on interviewing or networking or something like that. That is a great resource. You can subscribe to it through our website. There's a link, and just really fun to see what's going on. They often have student guests or guests from other individuals around campus. Of course, we also have social media, very active Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook feeds. So again, you're welcome to sign up for those, or you could have your students sign up for them ideally. So moving on, I wanted to talk a little bit about the employer connections that we have on campus. We do have on-campus interviewing. We have a great recruiting suite with 48 interview rooms. They're being held virtually this year, again, because of COVID. But the process is still the same. Employers would put a job up, students apply, and then employers decide who they'd like to interview. Because it's virtual now, once that student signed up for the interview, there would just be a link so that they connect virtually. We also have lots of employer presentations, probably way more than definitely way more than any student could go to. Because many employers now do multi-school events where they can invite students from Harvard and Stanford and Penn, because they're all virtual. We are finding that we had like 1,500 last year. Students are going to need to be fairly selective about what they attend. They obviously can't attend all of these. Usually we would also have some on-campus events where employers will come here and network with students. I imagine we will ramp that up definitely next fall. If COVID is doing better, we may do a little bit of that in the spring, or we may still keep them virtual. We're still trying to decide that. We started virtual career fairs last year. We'd never had them before, and they were super successful. This year we've continued them. Again, they are right through our Handshake platform. We had over 450 employers that participated this fall. So on September 10th, we did CareerLink, which is mostly business, but it has some nonprofit and government. Engineering Career Day is technical opportunities. We had a biosciences and research fair for freshmen through postdocs. And we also will have a nursing career day on December 3rd. We will be launching additional career fairs in the spring. They will probably be in February, but we'll be launching those for employer registrations within the next few weeks. We also do a number of consortium career fairs with other schools. This year we did biotech science and healthcare with UVA, Brown and Swarthmore. We have an upcoming government nonprofit fair that we do with GW, NYU, and the University of Delaware. That's been a long-standing fair that usually we would take a bus of students to DC to do this, and we'd have, definitely less than 100 students that would go. Given that it's online this year, we have over 100 employers and over 1,000 students who have signed up just from Penn. So definitely virtual is working well for that event. I did want to mention, since we have parents here, if you have hiring needs for any of your within your organization for internship or full-time, definitely connect with us. We are happy to work with parents who want to recruit Penn students for internship or full-time opportunities. You can see we have a page on our website just for employers, but you could also just reach out to us, and we're happy to help you get started, either posting a job, registering for a career fair, having an info session, whatever would work well for you. We're happy to facilitate that. So I want to switch over a little bit to some of our outcomes, something that I think parents are typically very interested in. We have found at Penn, ever since I've been here, it's been over 20 years, our students tend to gravitate to some pretty well-trodden paths. Finance is typically our most popular area. Last year, we had about a third of our students went into finance. Consulting is always popular. Technology is growing more popular. That's our third most popular industry, but obviously, with the growth of technology, we've seen increasingly students, not only in engineering, but arts and sciences, and more also interested in that. Our students tend to be fairly bi-coastal. There's lots of students who stay on the East Coast and lots of students, especially that go to California, fewer in between. I'll show you that in a minute. I also just wanted to mention that we believe your major definitely can be your career. If you're studying finance and you want to do finance, that's great. Or if you're studying computer science and you want to be a software engineer, wonderful. But for a lot of people, it isn't so predictive, and that's okay. You know, you may be a philosophy major that isn't probably going to be a philosopher, but how can you use those skills that you're developed in other industries? Really, your major is not the delimiting factor. It really has more to do with what you can do and how you articulate that to employers. We are a member of an association called the National Association of Colleges and Employers. Every year, they survey their employers about what kind of skills they're looking for in terms of students possessing. This is their most recent one, and you can see that they're pretty transferable general skills. The number one skill last year when they did this was the ability to work in a team, with 81% of people asking for that. They also highly value problem-solving skills, analytical skills, communication, both verbal and written, leadership, technical skills. These are all things that probably your students have developed. Maybe they haven't thought about how they would articulate them on their resume or articulate them in an interview, but they're super important, and that is what we are here to help them do. Interestingly, on this latest survey, only 56.6% of responding employers reported using GPA to screen for the class of 2021, which is quite a bit lower than the 75% that employers reported a couple of years ago. Of course, a good GPA is never going to hurt your student, but often we have students come in who think that they have to have a 3.8 or a 3.9 to be employed, and that's just not true. Employers will look at students with a range of GPAs, and every student is going to be able to put forth a different skill set. It may be a high GPA, it may be really great work experience, it may be really great leadership experience. It could be anything, but every student's a little bit different, and we would really encourage your students not to compare themselves too much against a kind of an arbitrary thing that they think employers want, because usually employers are open to a range of skills. Again, we do a lot of work with students to help them think about what they can offer to an employer, to articulate that in very clear ways in their cover letters and on their resumes and through their interviews, and to really sell themselves and to persuade employers that they can do jobs, because they can. We know they're super smart. They are very talented. They make great employers. We want to help them tell that story. So before we get into the statistics for the class of 21, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on some of the trends we've been seeing. As you probably know, many large employers, particularly those that hire hundreds or thousands of college grads, they are often having very robust internship programs for their juniors. The students will do that internship over the summer, and then they will get an offer before they come back as a senior for full-time employment. That has been popular for a long time, but it's certainly increasing in recent years. Internship recruiting has moved earlier for many fields. Particularly, we see this in finance. It's crazy, but financial employers, some of them are actually interviewing students sophomore spring for internships after junior year, so over a year later. We don't think this is a good thing. We would like students to be able to finish their sophomore summer before they think about what they're going to commit to for junior summer. But just so you know, that is something, we have a lot of students interested in finance, and that is something that we have absolutely been seeing. Consulting typically has been recruiting in the fall for those following summer internships. Even this summer, they moved it back to the summer before students even came back. They started their application processes. That would mainly be for juniors. Many freshmen and sophomores, many of them do internships, but often there's a later time cycle for that. It's much more likely to get hired in the spring, and much more likely to be hired with smaller organizations who aren't really looking to convert their interns to full-time. So the search looks a little different for juniors than it may for freshmen and sophomores. And it looks really different depending on the industry. Like I said, finance may be really early, entertainment, nonprofit, education. Those folks are just not even thinking about it a year in advance. They are going to do it much closer to when the student's able to start the internship or the full-time job. We are seeing lots of employers using technology in the hiring process, things like Pymetrics, which is sort of a technology game based on neuroscience to assess students. HireVue Those are those asynchronous video interviews where you log in and you answer some questions, and then the employer watches them later. Seeing lots of that going on. We're also seeing most of our students are doing internships. And again, this has been a trend that just keeps increasing, but for the class of 2020, 89% of them had at least one internship. 76% had more than one. So internships are increasingly important, and we are happy to work with students throughout their 4 years at Penn to think about internships and to hopefully land them, to put them in a good position for securing a full-time position after graduation. So here's the data for the class of 21. This is not totally finalized yet. We are still collecting a little bit of data. This is really hard data to get students to fill out. So we will be pestering them for another month or so. But the outcomes so far, given that we are in a pandemic, have been spectacular. I think they're really happy that most of our students are employed. As you can see here, as of October 19th, 77.6% were employed, and another 14.5%, 14.5% are going on to continuing education. 5.9% were seeking employment. We imagine that will come down just a little bit because we'll probably track down a few more students who actually told us they were seeking employment back when they graduated, and we haven't caught up with them yet. But still, that's a pretty low percentage given how tumultuous the economy has been in the last year. The median starting salary was $82,000. Definitely a respectable salary. That does not include signing bonuses or annual bonuses. As I mentioned, the employment by industry chart does not change that much every year, surprisingly, but financial services has long been our most popular area. This is for students across Penn at the undergraduate level. Consulting is always very popular, and technology. We also obviously have some interest in healthcare. We have nurses that typically go into healthcare, but also we have people who will do clinical research, perhaps at a hospital. We have people who are interested in health tech and those sorts of fields. And then, a smattering of consumer products, entertainment, nonprofit, real estate, kind of a range. Students really have a lot of doors open to them. And if they're not sure how to break into an industry because maybe they have less of a presence on campus with recruiting, come and talk to us. We can talk to them about the timeline for getting the industry and what are the most effective ways to break into a particular industry. Here are our top employers by industry. Very well-known firms: McKinsey, BCG, Bain for consulting, Goldman, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley for finance. Media, we had Walt Disney hired 3, United Talent Agency, NBC Universal. Tech, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon. So kind of a range of really reputable employers that our students are going to. I wanted to point out as well that the timelines vary a lot by industry of when you would get that offer. These early ones here, they are mainly in finance, consulting, and technology. Companies that tend to hire lots of people, have recruiting processes in place early. Many of these students who got the offers really early would have interned with that employer, just accepted the offer after the summer before they came back senior year. We also see a little spike here mid-spring when a lot of other kinds of employers will hire: education, entertainment, healthcare, government. And then, of course, some will find their jobs after they finish their graduation and they are ready to start work. And here's where students tend to go. Lots of people on the east, lots of people on the west, not so many people in the middle, although certainly we have alumni all over and we have job listings all over on our Handshake job board. You can see we also have lots of countries that people go to. Probably last year, this class, because of the pandemic, they are probably international students, probably going back home. But often we will have some American students that will go to other countries as well. That's just been a little more difficult to do given the pandemic. Continuing education, you might be surprised to see engineering as the top field of study. That is because a lot of our engineering students and some of our non-engineering students finish their undergrad and submatriculate right away into a master's of engineering degrees program at Penn. So not all of them, but lots of these folks here are actually Penn undergrads pursuing a Penn master's. But then medicine, law, social science, humanities, kind of a range of other programs. We find that many individuals actually take time off before they go to graduate or professional school, a year or two of gap years just to take a little bit of a break. We have on our website a really helpful report. We don't have the one yet done for 2021, but the one for 2020 is up there that will help students figure out how students got jobs in various industries, what the timeline was, what the salaries were like, all broken down by industry because those timelines really vary a lot. I'm going to pop over and just talk about two other programs, and then we're going to go ahead and take some questions. I know we're a little tight on time. There will be 2 additional family weekend programs. The College Alumni Mentoring Series, You're Majoring in What? From the College of Arts and Sciences, will be tomorrow at 1 o'clock. There's a link here. Maybe Claire, you could throw that link into the chat. And then David is also doing a program for Wharton students tomorrow, 11:30 to 12:05. And you can go to the main Family Weekend webpage and click into that if you would like. They are a little bit more focused for students from the particular schools. So with that, I am going to stop sharing and see if we have time for a few questions. If my colleagues would like to turn on their cameras, that would be great, just so folks can see you. Jamie, David, Claire. I have not been watching the chat because I've been looking at my screen, but have you noticed any questions, Claire or David or Jamie or Sharon?
There was one question that was stumping several of us because I think we were all busy typing and responding to various other questions, but so we missed this as well. But there was a parent who said, she just said something about which programs are really competitive, and but I missed what she said, and all of us went, yeah, we did too. we were typing away. So if you want to maybe just say again which programs you were referring to, that would be helpful, I think.
I don't remember either. So it must have been in and out.
My guess is it might be the sort of internships in finance and especially consulting, right? Consulting internships are very popular, but extremely difficult to come by because the volume, it's a supply and demand issue, right? There are fewer opportunities than even there are full-time jobs at the internship level. And yet it's something that lots of students want to try out. And so it's like hyper competitive. So that would have been my guess.
So any well-known firm, like even like look at a Disney that would come, probably fewer students applying to those at Penn, but students all over know who Disney is and are excited about it. So I think in general, more competitive when employers are just really well known and they have students from all over the country applying. Other questions? People can put them in the chat if they would like.
While we're waiting for that to come in, I feel like I get this question, usually when we do this in person, from parents, like what advice do you have for parents then for sort of helping to support their students in their first year at Penn from a career perspective?
And what do you tell them, Claire? So now you ask yourself, let's see what your answer is.
Oh, well, I tell them that the best thing I think students can do to be successful is to have a solid footing in their first semester, to take the time to acclimate and do well academically, that they have time to explore career options, and but having a great start, as you were mentioning earlier, having a solid GPA will open up more doors for them later. It's by no means the only thing that employers or graduate schools look at, but much easier to start off from a solid footing than to be working on bringing that up throughout the rest of your time at Penn, and to take a variety of classes if you're not sure what you're interested in, to look to get involved and seek out communities that, you know, lift you up and stimulate you. And that increasingly, because those employers, as you also mentioned through the NACE survey, look for those transferable skills, that like, don't worry so much about, does this content have to be directly related to what you think you might want to do? Because any experiences that you're gaining will give you skills that you can parlay into other things, communication, teamwork, problem solving. And so quality over quantity with things, and to remember to maintain balance and wellness for folks.
Excellent. Good advice. You know what? I see another question. Maybe I'll throw this to David. David, can freshmen get help from our office finding internship opportunities for their rising sophomore summers?
Absolutely. So the great thing about how we're organized, we are available for students as early as their first year. And we've been focusing our efforts in trying to connect with students to build awareness about our office and resources, as well as meet them where they are. Certainly, if they do want to schedule an appointment to meet with us as advisors one-on-one, we're more than happy to do that. As Barbara mentioned earlier, our peer career advisors are also available. If they want a student perspective, having been there as a first-year student, that might be another option. So there are different ways that our first-year students can connect with us. We definitely want to connect with them, and they certainly can take the time to schedule appointments or our advising hours that are open for same-day advising as well.
And Sharon, maybe I'll throw you a question. You work with the nursing students, and the nursing students are super busy. They have a little different curriculum than a lot of our other undergraduate students. Did you want to talk a little bit about nursing students? The kind of things that they are doing?
Sure. So yeah, I think what distinguishes the nursing students is that typically they have the majority of nursing students do end up in clinical nursing when they graduate. So they have clinical rotations. So they're actually working in a sense throughout their program. It's worked into their program. So they have clinical rotations every year in various areas: pediatrics, community health, just medical surgical areas. And so that really informs what they end up doing, although they're still exploring like which type of nursing is the best fit for them. So they're getting to do that. After their first year and second years, there's a variety of things that they may do. If you look at our career plans, our summer career plan survey, you will see the varieties that they may, the variety of activities that they'll do. Some of them may do summer camps that are health related or do have health related roles. They may do customer service, which can actually be useful. I think nurse recruiters do appreciate customer service, as surprising as that might sound. So there's a little bit, there might be some public health involvement, or they may be able to do nursing assistant positions that don't require extensive clinical experience yet. By their junior year, a lot of them do what's called externships, which is a kind of a highly structured and supervised internship to prepare them. And sometimes that will prepare them for where they're going to end up after they graduate, but that's a very coveted experience for them to have. And then by the time they get to their senior year, they're really generally looking for registered nurse positions. A lot of them try to look at programs called nurse residency programs that are tailor-made for newly graduated nurses. Quite a few Penn nursing grads do end up going to graduate school of some kind. It's very popular for them to do advanced practice nursing in roles such as a nurse practitioner, a nurse midwife. So that's generally what you'll find. Some of them will maybe move on to other non-clinical roles as well, where we always try to promote students that want to embark upon academia. There's a Hillman Scholars Program for those who want to go into a PhD program. But there's a lot of opportunities for nurses as well.
Thank you for that, Sharon. And Jamie, I see that you answered the question about students connecting with their counselors from their school. Do you want to just, in case people weren't watching the chat, do you want to answer that question out loud? But also, I was wondering if maybe you could talk a little bit about what an international student should be thinking about.
Absolutely. So to reference your first point, certainly students, when they go to schedule through our Handshake platform, because of the way the system's set up and the way that data about students comes in, they are shown appointments that are offered by the advisors that serve their school. And any student that we serve can also meet with anyone on the pre-graduate advising team to support them in their searches. But to go back to your second point about international students, they would approach, at least in my experience, and I work with lots of international students on the engineering side, they would approach their search much like every other student would, layering on top of that some of the things that Barb mentioned that can be useful tools to help us find employers that are open to the idea of hiring an international candidate as an intern, converting that international candidate into a full-time entry-level hire, potentially extending that and offering that candidate at that point, alumni, an opportunity to have a visa sponsored. So instead of being an F1 student or a J1 student, moving into an H1B employment-based visa. There's a lot to understand about the timing of the processes that an international student would go through, whether they're doing CPT or curricular practical training to support an internship endeavor, or they're converting over to optional practical training or OPT for postgraduate experience. And for students in STEM disciplines, and there's a very defined list of what that means, ranging from majors within the engineering school all the way through several of the other schools that are represented at Penn, they have the option, as the current laws exist, to take advantage of the STEM extension, which offers up to, combined with OPT, 36 months of full-time work after graduation. So that's quite a long time for students, graduates, to stay in their first position. And it is something that we are happy to, in partnership with our international student and scholars advising colleagues, work with our students to understand how that fits with their searches. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you for that, Jamie. I know that President Gutman is going to be speaking in 6 minutes, so I don't want to keep parents from that. Is there any last things that any of my colleagues would like to mention? Not that you have to, I just didn't want to end this meeting if you had something else you wanted to share.
Just that we appreciate you joining us and supporting your students' career development journeys. You are their advocates and their champions, and you're the reason that they got here. So thank you for continuing to support them, and we hope you enjoy Family Weekend.
Very well said. I think we all feel that way. So thank you all for coming. I hope that, again, you do enjoy the rest of Family Weekend, and that you also get a chance to hear President Gutman. She will be leaving Penn at the end of this year. So this is your last chance. I know I'm going to Zoom in and listen to her remarks as well. So thank you all and have a great weekend.